All right, I'd like to welcome you to my fishing report here for the second week of April. Good news, we got good fishing in a lot of different areas. The bad news is we got some wind coming this weekend. I'm going to break down the weather by region because it kind of changes when you go from north to south. But overall, we're going to have some wind on the weekend. But then come Monday, Tuesday, we're going to have a lot of wind everywhere. With wind, 30 plus knots out of the islands, and even along the beach, we're looking at 20 plus knots of wind. So that's going to be a windy week in store. Some areas are worse than others. Let's head up to the Channel Islands. There's been good rock fishing up there. There've been some real big reds caught at Santa Cruz Island this week by the boats fishing there, and the boats fishing Santa Rosa have had sea bass and some really nice halibut. But that's going to be pretty unfishable through the weekend and in the next week. There's weather along the beach looks better, so we'll go rock fishing. You might want to stay on the coast up there. San Nick and SBI are going to be windy there as well. Not really a whole lot going on at either island other than rockfish. And you've got bad weather up there for the next 5 days, so I wouldn't even bother looking at that. Clemente is windy on Saturday. Backs off a bit on Sunday, and it ramps back up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So if you're going to go, I guess Sunday would be your day if you're a private boater. But I don't know, it depends on how windy it is Saturday and what kind of residual weather there is from the swell from up north. It being windy, it might not be a great crossing. But I had some buddies fish there the other day, and they looked like they had good spring bass fishing with fish being caught on the weedless and also in shallow water, nice calicos. Just looked like a fun day of fishing over there. So it's starting, should be good as soon as this wind's over. Should pick back up and get on with the game plan. Going into Catalina, not much has changed there. They're still getting good rockfish by Catalina standards. There's some bonita, calico bass biting for guys fishing along the front side of the island. There's been some sea bass caught there this week on live squid, and it's the standard guys that are getting them. So it's not like a real good bite, but there are fish to be caught if you know what you're doing. If you know enough about what you're doing, you probably don't need to hear from me. So that's about that for cat. We have good weather along the coast all weekend, but there's not really a whole lot going on. There's some rockfish biting, but they're mostly small. Catch a sand bass or a calico along the beach, but it's far from good. And the next thing is the Coronado Islands. They haven't bit this good this week, but I'm hoping that's going to improve again. It's been hit and miss. They're seeing fish, they're not catching them. They get a little hit now and then. But down that way, we have nice weather Saturday and wind on Sunday. And that wind's going to blow Sunday through Tuesday. So if you want to go down there, Saturday is your day. Hopefully the yellows bite when you're down there. And at the end of this, I'm going to show you a couple of yo-yo jig tips for boats, guys that are heading down to the sport boats down there. The offshore bite has picked up this week. Quite a few boats had limits on their overnight to 2-day trips, and most of the fish are still being caught at night on knife jigs, but there's some action in the full day range, within 40 miles of the point, with fish being caught on poppers and things like that. The El Gato Dos got one on a popper the other day, and some other boats report seeing actual foamers and things like that up. So it's not great fishing, but it's definitely better than it was last week. So hopefully this wind is not going to be too bad down there, so hopefully it doesn't affect that fishing at all. So in regards to yo-yo jigs, a lot of times the sport boats will talk about the fish are biting the big yo-yo jigs versus the small yo-yo jigs, and what they're talking about is the smaller jigs being like a Tatty 9, Salis 6X Junior, smaller profile jig. A larger jig could be a Tatty 4.0, a full-size 6X, or a Tatty 14A. All three of these jigs are fished the same way and on the same tackle. The tendency the guys have, while I'm fishing a smaller jig, maybe I should drop down to a lighter rod or a smaller rod. With Spectra these days, and a mono top shot or straight Spectra to a leader, you can get away with a smaller reel and still fish effectively. But if I have a dedicated yo-yo setup, it's always going to be a tall reel, like a Penn Fathom 40 narrow. This needs a little line. I was going to do that today, but these bigger reels, make it easier for you to turn the handle because you get more line pickup as you go, so you don't have to constantly burn it to get the jig to swim. And I fished this on a 7-foot heavy rod. This is a Rain Shadow RCJB 84XH, which is I think rated 40 to 80 pound, but it's a pretty stout rod. And I'll fish this full of 80-pound braid with a short leader. You can put them on a top shot on there, whatever you want to do. But couple tips to fishing the yo-yo. When you drop down, the captain may say, okay, we're in 150 feet of water. I'm marking fish from, you know, from 60 feet down to 120 feet. That doesn't mean yet, you know, you need, the mistake a lot of guys do is they'll drop down all the way and then they'll wind their thing all the way to the tip and then drop it all the way back down, wind it all the way to the tip. So what happens is you're covering a lot of dead water in there. So basically, the bottom 30 feet of the water column don't have any fish in it, and the top 60 feet of the water column don't have any fish in it either. So what you should do is try and keep your jig in the area where the fish are. So if you know about how many inches you get per crank, let's say you get a yard per crank on your reel, and you drop down 150 feet of water and you need to come up 30 feet, turn the handle 10 times, and then what I'll do is I'll go back and forth real fast with my thumb on the line to make it obvious on my spool when I get to that point, so that when the next time I drop back down, I'll stop when I see the line start to zigzag out the spool because I know I'm 30 feet off the bottom. Same holds true coming back up. So you say, okay, so I have 60 feet of fish, that's 20 turns to handle and out of that fish again. So you can use all your effort into that little zone and your jig's gonna be in front of more fish that way. Just something to keep in mind. Another thing is, every once in a while yo-yo like this the whole time, just as fast as they can. I found that using a starting and stopping thing, 4 or 5 fast ones, slow it down, a couple quick ones, slow it down, gets a lot more bites because the jig's not just whipping by these fish, they're actually seeing it react and it kind of triggers them to bite it. So play around with it. Find out what retrieve they want on that day, what size jig they want, and keep your jig in the right part of the column, you'll be good to go. That's about it for this week. Good luck with your fishing.